I am about to tell you something the world does not want you to know. I am going to reveal the invisible system through which millions of men and women are enslaved every single day. And I am not speaking metaphorically. I am speaking with precision, scientifically, spiritually, and above all, truthfully. There is a force in this world, a sinister intelligence that works tirelessly to steal your thoughts, capture your emotions, weaken your will, and ultimately destroy the life you are capable of living. I call this force the devil, not the creature of fire and horns from folklore, but a real psychological and spiritual phenomenon, a consciousness of fear, confusion, addiction, and passivity that manipulates and governs the masses beneath the disguise of culture, comfort, and conformity. The devil has one supreme method of domination, and that method is drift. Listen carefully, because once you understand drift, you will begin to understand why so many people, even those blessed with talent, intelligence, and good intentions, ultimately end up as failures. Drift is the devil's method of mental control. Drift is what happens when a man fails to take possession of his own mind. It is what happens when he allows his thoughts to be shaped by outside influences. It is the state of moving through life by habit, impulse, and fear, without purpose, without a plan, and without intention. Drifting is not laziness. It is far more dangerous than laziness. Laziness is obvious. Drifting, however, disguises itself as ordinary life. You wake up. You go to work. You come home. You scroll through endless noise. Then you repeat it all again. And throughout all of that motion, you are not actually moving toward anything. You are simply existing, operating under the devil's silent guidance. This is how the devil wins. He does not need to shout. He only needs you to stop thinking. He does not need to frighten you. He only needs you to live without vision. He does not need to trap you. He only needs you to become addicted to comfort and indifferent to growth. The devil controls people by teaching them to fear. Fear failure, fear criticism, fear poverty, and fear what other people might think. Once fear takes root in the mind, it begins to regulate itself. The devil no longer has to speak directly. The man will sabotage himself. He will stop before he ever begins. He will shrink before he has the chance to grow. He will hesitate instead of deciding. Fear is the devil's atmosphere. Drift is his method, but he has many tools. He uses habit. If a man wakes up and immediately surrenders his attention to distraction, if he eats without awareness, speaks without purpose, or listens without discernment, then the devil smiles, because that man is building the walls of his own prison. He uses schooling. You may find this offensive, but the truth has little concern for comfort. Most schools are designed to condition obedience rather than independent thought, to reward compliance rather than creativity, and to standardize the mind rather than liberate it. A child with curiosity is often labeled disruptive. A student who questions the system is frequently treated as a problem. And so, from the very beginning, the devil teaches men and women to exchange their individuality for approval. He uses religion. Yes, even the systems intended to connect humanity with truth can be distorted. When faith becomes fear-based dogma, when it is used to produce guilt and shame, when it teaches men that suffering is holiness and thinking is rebellion, then the devil walks proudly through sacred halls. He uses the media, constant noise, opinions without substance, scandals, division, trivial distractions, endless waves of fear, conflict, and desire. Why? Because a distracted mind is a drifting mind. A man addicted to constant stimulation can no longer hear the still, quiet voice of his own conscience. Most cleverly of all, he uses pleasure. You may find this strange, but the devil loves to make people comfortable. Because once a man becomes addicted to comfort, he begins to avoid growth. He resists discipline. He labels ambition as arrogance. He trades destiny for dopamine. A generation conditioned to pursue comfort will never challenge those who rule over them. This is how the devil operates, not with pitchforks and flames, but through habits, influences, and cultural norms that sedate, confuse, and lull the mind into a passive state. And once the mind becomes passive, It no longer belongs to you. I have interviewed this force directly. I have extracted its methods, its tactics, its admissions, and documented them for the one person in 10,000 who is prepared to listen. The devil told me plainly, I control the majority of people simply because they refuse to think for themselves. Most people live in reaction. They wait for permission. They follow the crowd. They fear standing alone. They fear judgment more than failure. They obey without question, not because of virtue, but because of conditioning, and so the devil does not need to pursue them. They surrender themselves willingly. Now I will speak plainly. If you are not actively taking possession of your own mind, then someone or something already has. You do not escape the devil by accident. You do not break free from drift without effort. You must seize your mind with intensity. You must claim your thoughts the way a king claims his kingdom. You must decide once and for all that you will no longer be ruled by fear, by trends, by conditioning, or by weakness. The beginning of freedom is definiteness of purpose. This is the first antidote to drift. If you do not know where you are going, then you are already drifting. The devil thrives on indecision. The man who wakes up each day with no mission, no goal, and no burning desire is easy prey, but the man with a definite major purpose cannot be owned. He rises with fire, he moves with direction, he evaluates every decision according to whether it aligns with his purpose. Because of this, he becomes master of himself. You must choose that purpose for yourself. Not what others say is respectable. Not what society claims is safe. Dig deep and ask yourself, what do I truly want? What do I feel called to create? What do I wish to become? And when you find the answer, claim it, own it, write it down, obsess over it. Let it become the center of your mental world. Then you must practice self-discipline. Without discipline, even the greatest ideas dissolve into regret. Discipline is what separates the thinker from the doer. The drifter waits until he feels ready. The disciplined man acts regardless of how he feels. He moves while others hesitate. He builds while others scroll. He develops habits that are aligned with his purpose. And here is a truth the devil never wants you to discover. Every act of discipline is an act of spiritual warfare. Every time you say no to distraction, every time you say yes to your higher self, every time you say yes to your goals, you strike back against the invisible forces of drift. You must also cultivate faith, not blind faith, but directed faith, a belief in yourself, a belief in your vision, belief in your creator, and a belief in the laws that govern the universe. Because when you truly believe that you were created with intention and gifted with creative power, you stop seeing yourself as a victim. You stop obeying fear. You begin to act with divine confidence. The devil cannot possess a mind filled with faith. Flees from purpose. He trembles before discipline. He cannot stand in the presence of genuine belief. Yet he patiently waits for most people to forget, to compromise, to surrender their will for the sake of convenience. But you, the one listening, now have been warned. And with warning comes responsibility. Now you must examine your life with ruthless honesty. Where are you drifting? Where have you surrendered your mind? What habits have you allowed to become gateways for control? Who in your life is speaking the devil's language of fear and limitation? You must cleanse your mind as though it were a sacred temple. Purge the harmful influences. Redefine your standards. Take possession of your attention. Your mind is the only territory the devil truly desires, because once he has your mind, he no longer needs anything else. But the opposite is equally true. Once you possess your own mind, no one and nothing can possess you. You become free, and once freedom has been tasted, drift becomes unbearable. You cannot begin to free yourself from the devil's influence until you understand one fundamental truth. The mind is either directed or dominated. There is no middle ground. Either you use it or someone else will. And the devil knows this. That is why he has spent generations teaching men and women not how to think, but how to obey, how to conform, how to remain afraid. He conditions people to value safety above freedom, comfort above conviction, and public opinion above truth. He has worked through schools, religion, government, and the media to quietly erase the courage required for independent thought. And what has this produced? An army of people who appear alive on the outside but are spiritually dead within, people who wear the mask of routine while living as prisoners of fear, people who laugh, who work, who socialize, yet never take a single courageous step toward becoming who they were meant to be. This is not an accident. This is drift perfected. The devil's brilliance lies in this. He convinces people to call slavery freedom. He convinces you that your conditioned habits are your personality, that your insecurities are humility, that your fear of success is wisdom, and that your craving for approval is kindness. If you never question your beliefs, you will spend your entire life protecting the very prison that confines you. The moment you accept the idea that you were born to obey instead of born to create, the devil has already won. But let us no longer dwell on the mechanisms of captivity. Instead, let us examine the path to liberation. The first and most urgent step is to reclaim authority over your own mind, not temporarily, not casually, not as a weekend exercise, but as a deliberate daily act of personal sovereignty. You must watch your thoughts. Like a hawk watches its prey, the average person allows anything to enter the mind, complaints, criticism, distractions, lies, without ever questioning where those thoughts came from or what consequences they carry. Would you allow a thief to walk into your home, sit on your couch and drink from your cup without resistance? Then why do you allow fear to settle comfortably in your mind? Why do you permit mediocrity to become your inner voice? The devil enters through the doorway of passivity. You must close that door permanently. One of the greatest tools available to you is autosuggestion, the intentional repetition of empowering, self-affirming statements until they become deeply impressed upon your subconscious mind. The devil does not fear a single moment of willpower. He fears consistent conditioning over time, because what you repeatedly tell yourself becomes what you believe, and what you believe eventually becomes your reality. Therefore, affirm these truths daily and intentionally. I am the master of my mind. I am the architect of my destiny. I do not drift. I decide. I do not fear. I focus. I do not follow. I lead. These are not empty phrases. They are weapons. When spoken with genuine belief, they begin to rebuild the mental foundation the devil once controlled. They replace the programming of drift with the programming of purpose. Now let us speak about environment. No, one is completely immune to the influence of their surroundings. The devil uses your environment as a constant source of conditioning. He surrounds you with people who speak his language, people who gossip, people who complain, people who excuse their inaction with spiritual-sounding cliches such as, everything happens for a reason, while refusing to take even a single step of personal responsibility. You must become ruthless about your environment. Anything that weakens your purpose becomes an agent of the devil. Whether it realizes it or not, remove it, replace it, upgrade it, fill your surroundings with reminders of your mission. Place your written purpose where you can see it, on your wall, your desk, or your bathroom mirror. Read books that challenge your thinking, books that confront your habits, books that strengthen your spirit. Surround yourself with people who think upward, people who refuse to drift, people who call you toward a higher standard instead of pulling you downward. And let us not overlook the battlefield of time. After drift, delay is the devil's favorite weapon. He whispers, there is no hurry. You have plenty of time. Rest a little longer. And he understands that every day you postpone your mission. You weaken your belief that it truly matters. Action is your liberation, not tomorrow. Now, the moment you act upon your purpose, you begin breaking the chains of passivity. The moment you pick up the pen, make the phone call, set the goal, show up, speak with courage, the devil loses his grip because he cannot control a moving target. He can only haunt the man who refuses to move. If you truly understood how much of your destiny is shaped in life's smallest decisions, the decision to rise early instead of sleeping in, to read truth instead of consuming noise, to act boldly instead of delaying once again, you would never willingly drift again. The devil is not defeated by one dramatic act. He is defeated every single day through discipline. That is why you must establish rituals, habits that are aligned with your higher self. Wake up with gratitude. Feed your mind before you feed your body. Create before you consume. Reflect before you react. These are not meaningless routines. They are acts of rebellion. Each one strikes against the hypnotic rhythm the devil uses to lull people into mediocrity. Now let me speak directly to your fear. Fear is the devil's oxygen. He will use every possible fear to make you shrink. Fear of what others think, fear of failure, fear of loss, fear of success, fear of embarrassment. But hear me carefully. Your fear is not a warning. It is a compass. Whatever you fear the most is often where your freedom is waiting. The devil told me himself that he controls only those who allow fear to govern their decisions. But the moment you begin acting despite your fear, the illusion starts to crack. Fear weakens when it is confronted. Action destroys it. Courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is moving forward despite fear. And every courageous action weakens the devil's hold on your life. Train yourself to lean toward fear instead of running from it. Public speaking, starting a business, saying no, speaking the truth, pursuing your vision. These are not punishments, they're tests, and you pass every one of them through action. Once a man truly understands how the devil works, the burden of responsibility becomes absolute. You cannot unsee what has been revealed. You cannot return to comfort, drift, and passive living without knowing deep within yourself that you are choosing your own destruction. For the greatest trick the devil has ever played was convincing people that they were free while living as slaves to their environment, their emotions, their fears, and their unconscious habits. But once you awaken, once you take possession of your own mind, once you break free from the hypnotic rhythm that has governed your thinking, there is no turning back. You are now responsible for everything: your time, your attention, your growth, your influence, and above all, your choices. Because now you understand that every single day you are either aligning yourself with your Creator or surrendering yourself to the influence of the adversary. There is no neutral ground. Every day you are moving in one direction or the other, toward growth or decay, toward strength or surrender, toward purpose or passivity, toward vision or drift. Remember this final truth: the devil can rule only where your will is weak. His power is never absolute. It exists only where it is permitted. He gains influence through indecision, through a lack of faith, through undisciplined habits, through unchecked impulses. If you truly intend to defeat the devil's influence, you must become the master of your own will. Stop negotiating with weakness. Stop asking yourself whether you feel like taking action. Stop waiting for motivation to arrive. Stop justifying your excuses. Simply do what must be done. Regardless of comfort, regardless of fear, regardless of mood. That is what true willpower looks like. And willpower is not something you inherit. It is something you forge. Every time you honor your word, your will grows stronger. Every time you resist temptation, your character becomes stronger. Every time you choose discipline over indulgence, your will becomes sharper until it forms a blade the devil cannot dull. But that blade must be sharpened every single day, because the moment you neglect it, the hypnotic rhythm begins to return. Never underestimate the influence of those around you. The people closest to you shape the direction of your thinking more than you realize. The devil often works through attitudes, through fear, through weakness, through small-minded thinking. If you spend your life among those who drift, you will eventually drift with them. Not because you intended to, but because influence is powerful. Choose your companions with wisdom. Stay close to those who challenge you to become better. Distance yourself from those who constantly pull you back toward comfort and mediocrity. And if your path requires you to walk alone for a season, walk alone. Better to stand alone in truth than to be surrounded by people who encourage drift. Protect your attention, guard your thoughts, strengthen your discipline, live with purpose. Serve others. Practice gratitude, walk in faith, choose courage over comfort, choose action over delay, choose purpose over fear, day after day, again and again. Because freedom is never a single decision. Freedom is a way of living, and every day you choose purpose, every day you choose discipline, every day you choose faith. You strengthen your mind against drift. You weaken the devil's influence, and you become the kind of person who cannot be controlled. The world desperately needs such men, men who think for themselves, men who act with courage, men who build instead of complain, men who serve instead of seek applause, men who stand for truth when others surrender to fear. Become that man. Refuse to drift. Refuse to surrender your mind. Refuse to let fear make your decisions. Take complete ownership of your life. Guard your thoughts as your greatest possession. Live deliberately, lead with conviction, walk with purpose, and never forget this. The devil's greatest power has never been force. It has always been your permission, the moment you reclaim your mind. The moment you choose purpose over passivity. The moment you begin thinking for yourself, his power over you ends. Now the choice belongs to you. Choose wisely. Choose deliberately. Choose every single day. And if you do, you will never drift again.